What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about 2025 Devy rankings. We're going to be looking exclusively at the running back class, the top 5 guys, players you should be watching on the radar prospects. But before we get into the intro and before we talk about that, we do need to announce that we released our Devy Manifesto. If you don't know what that is, if you don't follow Devy, if you're just here for college football, we appreciate you. But if you play Devy football, essentially it's a form of fantasy football where you draft college players. So every year we have our own Patreon. I mention it on here every once in a while. It's $3 a month. And every February-ish around that time, we release the manifesto. Now, I wanted to show you guys what the manifesto looked like. So this is what it is. What we have found is that there's not a lot of sources for projected depth charts. There's our lads, and we use those as references and stuff like that, but we don't have that. So we have that. We have player stats, we have notable losses, we have team tendencies on here, what the recruiting rank was, and we do this for every single team in the Power Five. And so you'll have all the depth charts, right? So you look, hey, you have the depth charts, and you know what they look like, where they come from. We have our rankings in there in our Patreon. We have a ton of stuff in there in the manifesto. We have strategy. We have mock drafts for you every month so that you can see kind of how the mocks are going. Then we have this for every team. So we have a tail of the tape. And so, hey, this is your pick. This is who we think is going to start at quarterback. This is why. We have that for every single team in the manifesto. So you're thinking, hey, 60 tail of the tapes for you guys. Like, hey, position battles. Then we have player spotlights. Hey, look at this. Ja'Cory Brooks. What is his composite rating? What is his size? What is his outlook moving forward? Projected athleticism, projected draft capital. And then finally, we have their schedule. We kind of break that down. And then what we do, we add to that. So we're going to be adding to having big updates every couple months, especially next month and the month prior and then the month after. We have different ideas that we're going to be adding into it. By the end of the year, this document is usually easily over 300 pages, at least 400. It's already at 262 pages. So when we think of those things, like that is what we offer in the Patreon. Plus, we have the weekly podcast. We have all of that other stuff going on in our Patreon, Discord, all of that for $3 a month. That's as cheap as it gets right there. So if you're interested, check out the description. You'll see it. Just join. You can buy for a year and be discounted. There's a lot of different options on there. So go check it out. Let us know what you think. We appreciate you guys. But I did promise you guys 2025 running back class. We're going to get into it right after this intro. Why that's going, hit that like and subscribe button, or hell, go check out the Patreon. All right. Like I told you guys, we're going to be dumping into this. And so let's go over the class. Now, we went over the quarterbacks recently. Go check that out. Now, we're going to go over the running backs. And what do we see here? And this class is very good. And I'm going to tell you, from a Devy standpoint, you should be really excited about this. So let's take a look here. Nicholas Singleton is our running back 1. So right now, when you're looking at just the consensus and where everybody's at, Singleton's right there, 6'2", 19. When you're looking at his college stats, what he was able to do last year, 156 attempts, 1,000 yards, 6.8 yards, basically attempt and 12 touchdowns. And really, there's really 2 guys at the spot, like who you think is going to be. It's either him or Quinshon Judkins, the guy that's on the cover. Right now, we're going to lean Singleton, but it's very close. So when you're thinking of like, hey, when you're thinking of your rankings and where it's at, like Singleton has looked good. Some would argue that he may not even be the best NFL runner on his team with Katron Allen. I'm not there yet. I do think Singleton has the highest ceiling. So when we're talking about ceiling, what he can be, you saw like just the attempts that he had with 1,000 yards. He was explosive. He doesn't get a ton of attempts because Franklin really does running back by committee this last year. 10 attempts, 11, 12 was really what was his average when you're looking at what he was able to do. But he is by far probably that guy that you're talking about. He was the guy that I talked about being like the next Travion last year, and he kind of felt that role. Now, as in terms of like scouting wise, he's got that big playability, right? He does that really well. He's got good acceleration. Okay, at a line of scrimmage, you're able to hit zones and do those type of things. And he's a game changer. You'll watch the tape. When you go into the tape and you're going through it, you'll see everything we talk about him in terms of like, hey, what he can do and what he can do to the game. Like he's going to win a lot of games. And I tweeted out recently, I said, hey, they could be the reason why they win the Big Ten. And realistically, they could. They're very talented, right? You're talking about Drew Aller, there's other guys they got on a roster, Caden Saunders, Katron Allen, Lambert Smith. There's all kinds of guys on that roster. Now, weaknesses, pass catching, not really there. He didn't really do that in high school either. So I think that's something to note. Like he wasn't a very good, he didn't have the receiving pedigree in high school, didn't have that split usage as well. We're going to see Allen Allen be there, right? So we're talking about Katron Allen. What is he going to be? Like, I probably am a little too low on him, but there's a lot of guys ahead of him that I like. But Katron Allen is there, so he's going to have split usage. We're not going to see him be that guy. Inside zone running as well. Like, you're going to watch it. You watch his tape. He likes to bounce it. And I think that was a knock on him too on 247 Sports when they talked about it. A lot of it is like, hey, two, three moves and tries to get to the outside. That works in college-ish, but does that, we're going to go to the NFL? I think that's where you're, okay, who is that going to be, right? Like, where does that come from? Now, we're talking about running back 2 here. Quinshon Judkins, 5'11", 220. Man, this guy came out of freaking nowhere. 274 attempts, 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. This is why we love the format. This is why we love Devy. Like, a lot of people weren't talking about Judkins. A lot of people talking about, hey, Blue, Jaden Blue, and all these other guys, Jordan James from Oregon, and kind of like, Caleb Johnson, Jaden Ott. Like, some of these guys that have popped off. Raleek Brown was getting ranked higher than Quinshon Judkins. And so Judkins came in. He took Zach Evans' role, and Zach Evans looks like he's going to get drafted at day 2 capital. Maybe not, but somewhere around there. And Judkins took his job, right? So 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. And I think that's something to know. Now, you might have him as your running back 1. I do think that, him and Singleton, they offer different things. And I think Judkins is right there. They're in the same tier. So I would say that this is the tier right now. Strengths, I think he's pretty athletic. When you watch him play, he has that ability, right? Speed and, strength too. So like, he's got those 3 things. You'll notice him. He's break tackles. He was the red zone guy. He took over that backfield. Zach Evans got a little banged up, but for the most part, I think Judkins just showed he was better than him in practice. And like, he able to do that. Athleticism, speed, all that. On the flip side, running style, they do comment on this. Like, he runs pretty tall. He will get hurt. I mean, he gets hit. He didn't really get banged up, but how much of that usage can he kind of absorb, right? Like, when we're talking about Singleton, when we saw Singleton stats, so it's over 1,000 yards, basically 100 less attempts. Judkins had, 1,500 yards and, basically 100 more attempts. So when you're looking at that from an efficiency standpoint, I think Singleton definitely plays is a little bit better there. But overall, like, hey, that's where you look at Judkins and Singleton, right? Now, then there's the next tier. And it's a kind of a big tier. So you have Branson Robinson, kid from Georgia, 5'10", 220, didn't get a ton of usage, 68 attempts, 330 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And we obviously Georgia, running back by committee. We see that next year. It's going to be the same thing. You're looking at what they have. Edwards, Milton coming back. Like, what is Branson going to have? So I think the key question for us moving forward with him, like, from a weaknesses standpoint, like long speed, I think, looking at his ability, what is that 40 going to be? How fast can he get up there? The system that he's in, I mean, they produce pretty good running backs. So we obviously know Georgia churns out running backs. NFL running backs, yeah, kind of. But again, he's going to be in that running back by committee, right? So how much, if he can step out. So here's the thing. This is what you got to note with him. If he can step out of that running back by committee role and be the guy, then you're really excited about him, right? Then we should probably bump him up a little bit more. But if he's in that role and running back by committee, he's not producing. When he doesn't have that production that we see here, then where do we put him, right? So I think that's the biggest question mark overall. Now, as far as strengths goes, hey, size, he's got that. That dude was built. Everybody, his picture in high school, everybody talks about that damn picture. So he was built there. Between the tackles, really good. I think he has pretty good lateral agility for his size too. I mean, for him to be able to move kind of, east and west, make guys miss at the line of scrimmage, like, at his size, that is definitely a strength of his. So I really love that. Like, I think from just a standpoint of him as a prospect, he's got that going for him. He's in a good system too. Like, even though the system is predicated on that kind of running back by committee there, it fits him well. That offensive line is going to be really good. They can lean on him. I know the quarterback situation is kind of unknown there. So those are the things that you're going to like to see from that, right? Now, as far as the 4th guy. So again, I love this kid, Trevor Etienne, man, from freaking Florida. He's one of my favorite running backs. I've been touting him for a while now. You could easily put him at 3 if you wanted to. I know a few people put him there. Our guy, a few people in the Discord, Todd, some other guys. If you're in the Patreon, we talk about this. 118 attempts, 719 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7.3 yards per attempt, and his average looks really good there. So when we're talking about him overall, I think the biggest thing about him that I like, lateral agility, got that really well. Quick feet, man. And you're watching his feet, his ability to kind of do that. He might be better than his brother. right? So when we're thinking of Travis Etienne, first round draft pick, like Trevor might be there. Like by the time we're said and done as a college player, as a college prospect, right? So quickness, strength too. Like he's a big kid. You look at his frame and you're like, hey, how much does he weigh? Coming in 215 ish, probably, right? 215, 220 with his lateral agility and quickness. You have to love that. From a weaknesses standpoint, hasn't pass, pass catching is going to not be there. Running back by committee too. We know, we understand the Florida offense is what it's going to do. Montrell Johnson is there. We're looking at the overall, just the depth chart as well. Like, and you can look at that on the manifesto. Like overall, like where does he fit in? Like, is he going to get the usage? And he's not. He's going to get split carries at least this year. Maybe next year he takes off too. But he has a depending on where you are, right? I'm probably a little higher than consensus on Trevor than some other people are. I still have him at 4. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, like he might be in someone's like 8 or 9 range, he could definitely pop up into the top 5. And I think he's someone to get on your radar. Now, the 5th guy is Javante Barnes for me from Oklahoma. I thought he did really well. Now I know that they have Gavin Sawchuk there too. So again, where are these guys going to be? But hey, last year he came in. Eric Gray was there, and Eric Gray did absolutely phenomenal. So when we're thinking of like production wise, stepping in, these guys have some production that Eric Gray is going to leave on that field, right? So that is as he declared for the draft. So 116 attempts, 519 yards, 5 touchdowns. Javante looks pretty good. There's a ton of guys you could put at this 5 spot. So we're going to talk about that here in a second. But overall with Javante, like what he does well, 3 down back, downhill runner, line of scrimmage explosiveness. Like those are the things that you like, especially the downhill runner stuff. You'll see him hit the holes. He's gone. He's going to score. He's going to do those type of things. 3 down back too. I do think that he can catch a little bit. He has that kind of ability. Line of scrimmage explosiveness. Yeah, he gets through that line and goes. Now, sometimes the vision will lack. Sometimes he just tries to create contact, and that's a freshman thing, but he does that. Lateral agility, there's some concern there. I don't think his hips are as fluid and as twitchy as you would like. Usage wise, yeah, again, a lot of these guys are going to have some usage questions, right? Like, I think Singleton's going to have usage questions. I think Branson, Etienne, and Barnes are all going to have usage questions. The only guy that's not is Judkins. That dude's going to get like 500 carries. Other than that, yeah, you're going to have a usage issue. And I think there's some vision issues with Barnes. I think he's going to be able to, he needs to identify holes quicker, kind of, get into position in terms of like how he reads blocks. Those type of things are going to come to him. But he not a bad freshman year, right? Now, other guys that are on the radar. Le'Veon Moss didn't get to play last year. Again, they brought in Reuben Owens. How is that running back in a room? Is he going to step up, right? George Pettaway at North Carolina, again, he looked okay at times last year, but then they just kind of went away from him. He also has Amarian Hampton on that roster, so hey, that's someone else to look at. Jamarian Miller is out there from Alabama, and I'm not sleeping on Miller yet. Alabama running backs just take a long time to produce. Damian Martinez, Oregon State running back, like when you're looking at him, I was a big Damian Martinez guy last year, and 3-star kid out of Texas coming to Oregon State. He produced. He's probably going to get the volume in an offense that's going to be there. So there's someone to watch. Jaden Ott I was higher on until they brought in all their transfers. Now that they brought in some of those transfers that we see, I'm a little worried about what they think about. And I think that usage can get hurt. Katron Allen probably deserves to be in a top 5, but I do want to just kind of mention that he's there. And I do want to mention another kid. And again, this is why there's so many guys here. Trevante Citizen hasn't got run yet. He was injured last year, missed out for the year from Miami. Citizen could be up there. And I think there's some value to be had with Citizen. So I didn't put him on the list, but those are the guys that I would definitely take a look at and moving forward. So I appreciate you guys. There's our rankings for the 2025 running back class right now, as it is in February. Obviously, these things are fluid and change, ready for spring battles and stuff like that. But again, I just want to mention, hey, sign up for the Devy Manifesto. Even if not, just sign up for it. See what you like. You don't like it, unsubscribe. It's one of those things. We know how that goes. But it's only $3. That's super cheap right now in this economy. We did not adjust for inflation on the channel, so hit that like and subscribe button too. I appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys next time.